Welcome to the Nachi free Wednesday night live stream. And for those of you who've been following my other live streams, first of all, I want to say thank you. Mwah! Really appreciate that. And you'll notice that the background has changed. No more clutter, no more of my bike hanging in the background or the other crap that I had. These are my oil paintings that I'd like to introduce to you. This one here is Captain Something. And it's mixed media. It's oil painting with acrylics, a little bit of airbrush and stuff. And this one over here is called The Meandering Voyage. And it kind of describes my life, and I'm sure the life of many people. It meanders around. You may have a very clearly defined goal in life, but that goal, to get to that goal, it's never a straight line. You always have to there's so many twists and turns that life takes us through. And that's what that painting's about. This one's kind of hard to say. I mean, I titled him Captain Something because I didn't know what else to title it. And while I can't say that this is a stream of consciousness painting, because a very detailed work that it took me and stuff like that, but the ideas were very stream of conscious. And it wasn't until I finished the painting I was like, I just named him Captain Something. And yeah, there you have it. It's a guy who is, I think, and I'm trying to figure my own self out with this painting. I think it's a guy who's kind of upset yet impressed by everything he's seeing, but he's keeping to himself, you know, and he would love to change the world for the better, but he respects people's privacy and their rights. So he kind of just keeps himself, just kind of grumbles and shit like that. Anyway, that's those are these paintings, and they're for sale, by the way. Even though my last name is Free, Nachi Free, that doesn't mean anything in this life is. And so, yeah, these paintings are, can't sell them for 20 bucks, but if anyone is interested by any chance, you can contact me either through Twitter or through my YouTube homepage. But for 20 bucks, you can own the t-shirt. A t-shirt for sale. And I'm sorry for the shameless self-promotion, but I gotta make a living one way or another. Anyway, let me get to the matter at hand. Did CNN blackmail holeSolo, a Reddit user? And I really didn't want to even cover this. I mean, I just been seeing so many people talking about this on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? Maybe this will get me a lot more views than the original idea that I had for today, which is all religions are false, and I dare you to prove me wrong. That's what I was going to do, my live stream for today, but I don't think many people are going to, especially religious people, they don't want to hear that what they believe is bullshit. But so, and then when I saw, and then the other thing that I wanted to cover was North Korea. I mean, they sent out an intercontinental ballistic missile. It's a little tongue twister. Yesterday on July 4th. I mean, really clearly trying to send a message. Hey, you want a firework? You want fucking fireworks? Here we go. And so I was thinking, doing a live stream titled, Should North Korea Finally Be Put Out of Its Misery? But again, I don't think most people give a shit about North Korea, let alone the threat that they're starting to really pose now. Now that they've got, I think, actual intercontinental ballistic missiles. I'm not a military expert, I don't know. It always seems though, however, whenever there's a new president, North Korea they act up. And from what I understand, a lot of it has to do with them. Basically, it's almost blackmail. It's almost like what CNN's doing to a certain degree, but it's actually for them to be able to get some sort of a food aid and to just get aid. And that's the weirdest way of asking for aid, by fucking sending out these missiles. But anyway, look, I'm not an expert. I've seen quite a few documentaries on North Korea, and I know I'm rambling. I want to get to CNN in a second. But the one thing I did want to stress about North Korea, and why I think it should be put out of its misery, it is amazing to me that a society like that can actually exist. It's incredible that people can just deteriorate to that level and live in this perpetual state of fear of, and well, one family, you know, began with Kim Il Sung, then Kim Jong Il died, and now Kim Jong Il know you don't pronounce it that way, but I can't say that guy's name the way it should be pronounced. And I don't know. I think it's almost more of a humanitarian effort. It shouldn't even be that much of a preemptive strike. I think it should be more of a humanitarian effort to finally take down that regime. It'd be nice if we can just go in there with tweezers and just pluck that guy out in this little fucking inner circle, but it's not that easy. Now, CNN, did they blackmail HansA, holeSolo, the Reddit user who posted the very entertaining tweets of when Donald Trump was actually with the WWE and he was, I think, clotheslining fucking Vince McMahon, and they superimposed the CNN logo on Vince McMahon's head. And when I first saw it in the news, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of funny." And I think I even remember seeing that, before. And I was like, "Oh, it wasn't that when he fucking clotheslined fucking Vince McMahon?" And but then I was like, I saw it in the news again, and I started seeing the outrage. I'm like, "What the fuck is the problem?" I mean, granted, it's extremely tasteless, but at this point, I've almost become numb to the tasteless shit that Donald Trump tweets out. It's anyway. I don't approve of the tweet. I'll be honest, and that's one of the things that I would like to talk about on this live stream. How clearly most mainstream news outlets are being played like a fiddle by Donald Trump. Do I wish he would play more like Bach and Beethoven and not just some fucking squawky fucking thing like a 5-year-old just learning how to play the violin? Yet, he apparently knows what he's doing. And that's why I wanted to go over some of his tweets later on. Let me see who's actually watching, or am I just talking to myself as usual? Let's see. Who's joining me on this chat? Is my chat even live right now? I'm assuming it is. I can't find it on my channel here. But as usual, I'm having slight technical difficulties. I hope you're impressed by the background at the very least. Let's see. Aha, here we go. And aha, so we got Ernest, and we've got Obvious, and Amanda Wolfchild. And you know what? Since I love this little group, I'm just going to give you guys right now the invite. Let me see. And help me save this rambling fest that I'm going through right now. Okay, there we go. Hey, you're all invited. So come on in and let's talk about. CNN did not blackmail, okay, HansA, holeSolo, and I think people need to be careful with that. I think one of the best YouTubers who's covered this has been Philip DeFranco. He was very careful with his words because he's not like a solo guy like me. He's got a staff. He's got people working for him. I'm sure he's got lawyers, and I've got obvious.
Am I on?
Matt?
I think I'm on.
How's it going, Obviously?
Pretty good. I'm going to try this headset real quick.
All right.
Should work. It's one of those cheap Xbox ones. There. Is that a little better?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah, it helps having an actual microphone that's not built into a plexiglass screen.
Yeah. How does this sound when you're listening to me? Because that's what I'm going by the built-in mic and camera, obviously, on my laptop.
You're a little low, but it sounds pretty good.
Let me see if I get a little closer. Does this make a difference?
Yeah, it might just be the headset I'm using, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me pour myself some wine. A little skull bottle.
Nice. I still have one of those.
By the way, do you think that vodka is very good? The Crystal Head vodka, or?
I normally don't drink vodka, but I have to admit that and Tito's is really good.
Okay, because I thought it was quite nice, very dry. I guess that's one way of describing the taste from what I remember. But I'm not much of a vodka drinker either.
Tito's is another good one. It's
Heard of that one.
it's in the $20 range, but it goes down smooth.
Oh, nice. I gotta try that one out because I've heard other people recommending that one. So, what do you think, or what do you even know about this whole thing with CNN and the black?
From what I can gather, because there's been a shitstorm on YouTube right now. I mean, people are losing their fucking minds over it, and rightfully so. I get the fact that it's a shitty little post, and yeah, it was done in humor. You know, this happens. It's the internet. It's just CNN's response to it. You have a 15-year-old kid that they're practically holding his identity hostage.
Sorry to interrupt you there. At least some facts that I think I got. He's not a 15-year-old kid. They've already established that he's not a 15-year-old kid. Supposedly, it's a grown man.
Okay, so that part got finally cleared because so far a lot of people have been calling it a 15-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Can everyone hear me?
How's it going, Ernest? Sorry to interrupt you there. Obviously, just wanted to.
Yeah, sorry as well, man.
No, I actually wanted to know if he was 15 because that's what everybody was reporting on.
When I read the apology, like so far the apology that I read, I was like, if that's a 15-year-old, his parents wrote that for him because it sounded really well worded or very cautiously worded. And I was like, that sounds like an adult who doesn't want to lose his job. That's what I gathered.
That's what that's the other thing I got from it too. I was a little confused on whether or not he really was 15 or if this was a guy shit posting at work that got caught using the company's internet.
Could possibly be too. Yeah. What do you think about this, Ernest? How's it over in Finland?
Not bad. I've just got the last bit of my Havana Club.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, by the way, boys, I gotta say it. Viva Cuba Libre.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good drink.
It's from the bottle, no less. I like that.
Yeah, so I think the Clinton News Network really shit the bed on this one. And the reason I think that is, it would be one thing if they took it in stride and said, okay, you know, da-da-da-da. But in a sense, the way they worded their response, if you do this again and you're not sorry about it, we'll release your information. In a sense, that's blackmailing somebody.
It's clearly a veiled threat. I don't know if that constitutes literally as blackmail, and in the coming days we're going to find out with lawyers and stuff like that. But of course, we're going to hear lawyers from the left and from the right because it's such a it's almost a subjective.
I've been flat out working the last few days and setting up my own thing with Lenny, so I haven't had much of a chance to hear what's going on. I've heard about the CNN whole Russia thing. Blackmail. If somebody doesn't mind filling me in.
I'll let you explain it, Nachi.
Well, apparently, look, let me do a quick screen share here. Let me do a screen share application window. Let me make sure I've got Donald Trump's actual tweet. I got it right here. Let me see.
Oh, by the way, Canada gave $10 million to a terrorist.
Yeah, I heard that on Gad Sad. The guy shot while being a jihadi in Afghanistan. So what is the great land of Canada does? They apologize and give the poor bastard money in the millions.
10 and a half, actually. We gave him 10.5 million before killing an American. Yay, Canada.
Wow. Look, we missed out, and everybody is. And I'm going to be honest. I'm shamelessly trying to see how many views I get just from putting did CNN blackmail. I'm just curious to see how many people come trafficking through this fucking video.
Nice clickbaiting there, Nachi.
Sorry. Sorry about that, but anyway, here we go. At least I'm honest about it. You see, that's one thing you get with the Nachi fleece.
Have you seen my video? I've done the most honest thing ever as for part of my municipal campaign, so don't worry. I think I'm crazy for doing it. Everyone's told me I'm crazy for doing it, but I'm doing it.
Good for you, man.
20% of my salary.
Wait, no. I want to get to that because that sounds very interesting. Let me just really quick play this.
Yeah, no. Please. It's your show, man, not mine.
And there's the infamous tweet.
I remember this one time, a long time ago. Does that where Trump clotheslined Vince McMahon?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just amazing that man is now our president. I do have to say that. That's just like, he's the president now. Fuck it. What are you gonna do? And yet it was funny when I first saw it. I thought to myself, "Oh well, that's yet another tasteless tweet from the Trump." But the fact that people are getting so outraged about this, and I do not see that connection. I in no way, shape, or form see the connection of Donald Trump inciting violence towards journalists at all.
No, it's not. It's just crybaby Trump again. They have nothing else. There's CNN on it, and it's not a big thing. I mean, what do you watch on CNN? I don't even watch CNN anymore. I watch. You know who gives me a bit of information? Anthony Brian Logan. That's who I watch. I'd rather watch ABO than I watch CNN. You know, if he had a network, it would be awesome. But one can dream.
But look, that's another point that I kind of wanted to make. Fuck, now I lost the control of this one. I'll get back to that later on.
No, I think I'm still here.
No, what I meant is I lost control of the auto switching of screens, because whenever I screen share, if you don't hit the little stop button or something like that, it just automatically turns that off, and it'll probably come back on. Anyway, the thing that I did want to say about mainstream news outlets and stuff like that, and so many YouTubers are like, "Oh, mainstream news is just it's gonna fucking die," and stuff like that. At the same time, that's what almost every single YouTuber relies on. Like, none of us, the majority of us, let's be honest, we're not in the field. We're not reporting firsthand. We're just commenting on shit. I mean, let's also be kind of honest about what is. And I think this is. Go for it.
That's why we can't be out gathering the news, as it were.
Well, I didn't quite. What do you mean? That's not why we're gathering the news?
No, I mean, we work for a living. It's just a poke that news reporters don't really work that hard. They just kind of like check what everyone else is on Twitter and then compile the news themselves.
Well, that is the amazing thing, though. What is interesting is to see how many YouTubers are almost doing a better job of relaying the truth to the to their viewers than the mainstream news is. Because at least I think what YouTubers really do, what we're doing is we're filling in that gap. I think what a lot of YouTubers are, we're filling in the gaps of omission that a lot of these news outlets are intentionally leaving out. And so I don't think that they're entirely lying as much as they're omitting information and then sensationalizing whatever it is that they're selling us, you know? And that's what I think YouTubers do serve a purpose, you know? But
the thing I think the internet is good at right now is relaying information instantaneously. However, there's not really a filter on it yet.
As there should not be.
Well, what I mean by a filter, there's no way to disseminate what is bullshit and what isn't bullshit.
Yeah, no, to a large degree, you have to use judgment. You have to just have your radar on. If you're a political news junkie like we are, and especially if you want to be able to eke out somewhat of a living off of this medium, you know, and if you want to just keep your subscribers and you want to actually grow a channel. Not to mention, I mean, more than anything, if you just want to see the world become a better place, I would like to think, you know, that's part of it.
I think if a YouTuber proves to be ethically intact, by the content they use, that helps a lot. But there is so much, and this isn't poking fun of you, but there is so much clickbait bullshit right now because anybody with a blog can instantly put out a story and it's already hit 5 or 6 different YouTubers before it's even gotten a chance to be sorted out. Like some stories just cause a feeding frenzy.
No, yeah, like this one has.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know why. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
I honestly don't see the big because I mean it's like, oh, somebody did a meme of Trump. We gave a terrorist $10 million. You would think that this would be a much bigger story. That I mean, this would be like, what? They gave who? How much? And you don't really hear about it a little bit, but I mean, it's kind of big news here because everyone I've been listening to the talk shows, people are furious. And here's the thing: we didn't own Guantanamo Bay. We don't own it. We got nothing to do with it. He might have been tortured. Okay, yes, torture is bad. Torture is very bad. And he admitted it, and he admitted he killed an American soldier. So money. I mean, it's like we're rewarding him. It's like we're saying, "Have a good job. Thank you very much. You're the good job, boy. Off you go. Here's $10 million. Go buy a yacht and a line of furniture stores." This is actually should be a bigger deal than Donald Trump clotheslining a CNN meme, but it's not. I really don't know why, and it's also the Mika Brzezinski thing has made me laugh. I've had a good laugh at that. Yeah, Trump to do, by the way. Still kind of find it funny that he's feuding with cable news TV people.
Well, the great and mighty Trump, the Emperor Trump, tends to throw a temper tantrum whenever our media doesn't pay attention to him.
He needs one of these. He needs a fidget spinner. Every time he's about to do something stupid, we should just give him a fidget spinner and just be like, Donald, just 1 second. No, fidget spinner. Oh, what was I going to do? No, yeah, I wasn't going to tweet. And he puts the tweet back. Everything's good. Why I have this, don't ask. I need to burn it.
Let me see. No, right now I'm looking up the Trudeau gives apology and $10 million to Canadian terrorists. Of course, the funny thing is that the very first one that came up was Rebel Media. Let me see if I can screen share this.
Yeah,
the ever so reliable Rebel Media from Canada.
Yeah, I know. They're already starting to show themselves, which I always kind of sense that about them a little bit. But yeah, Trudeau gives apology
is a sketchy individual. I don't like him. Gavin McInnes just makes me mad because he's like a I don't know, he's like a almost. Voice thing.
By the way, I'm sorry, your mic keeps cutting off in and out.
Really? That's kind of strange. I just bought a what do you call it there? A Wi-Fi booster to fix this problem.
Oh. So, but no, it's fine. It's interesting to see this little ad right here, the Rebel Edge, and they're zooming in. I liked Gavin McInnes, the first couple of times that I saw videos of his, and I figured he was just, he was just fucking around with people,
Really wasn't though. That's the scarier thing. He's getting a bit. I don't know what it is, but the Rebel Media seems to turn their team into like. I don't even know what to call them. I can't say fascist.
No, the term is guerrilla journalist. It's where you get them to go out and do something sensational, kind of like how Michael Moore used to ambush people on the street.
Yeah, that's true. Now, the Proud Boys thing that Gavin set up, that's one. The name is just kind of it's really just weird. I mean, it sounds like something you'd watch at Pride. You know, like look out, everybody! The Proud Boys are coming.
Yeah, yeah, it's not conducive to helping solve any problems. That's for sure. You know, that's where they're losing.
They're even here now in Canada. They just interrupted a traditional. Well, they interrupted a protest in Halifax. There was like 4 of them, and 2 of them were the Royal Canadian Navy, and they identified themselves as Proud Boys and shouted a bunch of racial slurs and ran away.
Yeah, no, not to mention with the whole interrupting of that Donald Trump assassination play, which is really, I think, what is it, Julius Caesar, but they're using Donald Trump. And supposedly when Obama was president, there was they did the same play, but with Obama. And but supposedly, I forgot the name of the woman who was who worked for Rebel Media, and she interrupted the play. And then the way that the Rebel Media was actually trying to
spin it,
support and get people to contribute to her legal fund. And that was let me see if I can find that video. That was a really good video.
I think it turned out that she had her legal fund. They were setting up a GoFundMe for that before they even decided to do it.
Exactly.
Like they had the whole thing planned out, and it wasn't so much about their political beliefs. I honestly think it was a ginormous publicity stunt that blew up in their face.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be the first time. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It wouldn't be the first time a major news organization decided to do a publicity stunt disguised as a political activity. Like, it might have been 50-50.
It probably is, but I mean, like, the Rebel has been getting desperate because what it is, when I was a few years ago when I lived in Central Canada, the Rebels' main focus was on Rachel Notley, and Rachel Notley is the new Democrat Party premier of Alberta. She's well, hell, never held a proper. She's pretty much like female Bernie Sanders, except
yeah. But have you ever, not to interrupt, have you ever known a socialist to have a job that didn't involve sitting on his ass telling other people what to do with their money?
Honestly, I haven't. I've never met one who does. I wish I did. Well, actually, no. I know one socialist, and he's a friend of mine who actually does work for a living. He's not in a position of power, so yeah. But otherwise, 99% of the socialists I've ever met don't have work, or they do jobs. It's usually academic, union based, or something in between. You should actually be a part of this socialist collective. It turned out that all the leaders were professors. They would literally finish up their work. They would then go to a coffee shop and spend hours pretty much creating their own little fantasy world of how their socialist utopia was going to work out. And all their control over their little, what do they call it there? And all this nonsense, they're
just pontificating on their own glorious socialist wonderland, right?
Pretty much. And then they kicked us out. They kicked me out because I didn't want to give them money towards a new office for a visit because it was on the other end of the country. And they kept talking about our glorious workers' duties and all this. So I was just like, yeah, I'm done. Have a nice day, guys. You enjoy playing. You guys enjoy playing Revolutionary. I'm gonna go and do something real. Enjoy your LARP. Off I went, and then became a liberal, then a conservative. I was gonna say socialist, but that's the wrong step. Yeah. So that was the way it worked. Yeah.
Not being really quiet.
Who's being really quiet?
No.
Nachi.
Oh, no. I was just letting you guys talk and stuff like that. But what I was going to say is I think the whole thing with, like, whenever I hear people talk in terms of liberals and conservatives and stuff, I consider myself as much of a liberal as I do a conservative. And I think that doesn't really go ahead.
No, I think, Nachi, you sound to me like a red Tory, is what we call it here.
Like what?
A red Tory. And what a red Tory is someone who is fiscally conservative.
Socially liberal.
Socially liberal, yeah.
Yeah, and then most people would say that's a libertarian. I would just say I'm independent. And here's the thing. Look, one of the other things. Somebody talking there? Or? No. One of the other things that I did want to share, and this is where a lot of this confusion comes in, and it's hard to know who to trust and stuff like that. Oh, good. I think I have the automatic. Let me see. Now the automatic screen flipping is going on again. Let me see. How about you, Ernest? Can you just say something really quick when we test something out here?
Doodles.
Okay. Perfect. Anyway, so we're back to the automatic screen switching. The thing is, speaking of CNN, so this is not clickbait. I'm going to stick to the fucking subject. And here's where I think the right or the conservatives, which again, lack of a better term, I would almost say religious people, where they kind of muddle the truth. And speaking of CNN, one of the people who's been giving them a run for their money has been James O'Keefe with Project Veritas. Oh wait, I got somebody's echo.
It's probably me. Let me hit mute and see what happens.
All right, so let me see. Yeah, it must be you. So then.
All right, let me fix that. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem. So anyway, just to keep this going, one of the things that I admire James O'Keefe. This is just a small little thing that I'm criticizing him on, but I think it's a big fucking deal. I think it's a pretty big deal, and it's interesting to see if you really want to search for truth in the media, you got to stick to reality, which is ironic considering these two next videos I'm going to show you. Speaking of James O'Keefe. And here's my point. Watch this with James O'Keefe. Let me screen share. You go to application window.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah. No, now I'm not hearing the. Perfect. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to play this real quick. This was James O'Keefe on Steven Crowder, who I like. Clearly don't agree with everything this guy says because he's religious. Now listen to this. And this was before this whole thing. This was over the weekend. And this was sorry.
Bad looking at your ass.
Hey, look here. Let me show you this real quick.
Salacious question. I was like, well, hold on a second. YouTube featured this, so I'm going to throw. We're going to do Bob Ross painting Muhammad in period blood because we have to throw it back at them. So yeah, it's not. You expect it from the left. It's unfortunate when you peel back the curtain and see it coming from the right. I would certainly say, listen, you have a bigger reach, obviously, and much more impact than CNN. That's why they're scared of you. Final question before we go. Before all these videos broke, the night before, 3 people resigned at CNN. 3 employees. Was that you when you were seeing that story? Were you thinking they know?
I don't know if you're religious. I think you are religious, man. A lot of this is. I'm not kidding. A lot of this is just providential. We got the last bit of footage on Friday. This investigation took about 6 months to do.
Yeah.
People think, oh, you just walked up to a guy. No.
No.
Undercover work is extremely complex. You have to build relationships. You have to get them to draw them out. We got the last bit of footage Friday in an elevator, Friday night, and I was planning on doing other things. And then I saw that happen. I pulled an all-nighter. We put the material together. We changed our strategy. And sometimes these things it's destiny. It's
no, it is not.
Just come together.
No, it's not. And that's a problem too. And that's one thing that really shapes my ass. And then here he was on Stefan Molyneux's show. And it's now this whole thing.
Oh, I can't stand Stefan Molyneux. Sorry.
He's starting to lose me too. He's starting to lose me too a little bit.
If I hear another one of his race genetic rants about, well, let me tell you about the low IQ people of Puerto Rico. Oh, sorry. It's just every time I hear Stefan Molyneux, I just think about that stupid smirk on his face.
Yeah, he's clearly. I'm finding that he's clearly playing to his crowd, and I think he's starting to discover that probably a large percentage of his subscribers and his viewers are probably religious, and that's why he didn't call out James O'Keefe, because James O'Keefe in this interview, he brings up that same talking point. He also mentions that it's providential. This is a sign from God, and it's like, oh my God, Stephen Molly, could you at least stop him there? And he doesn't. He doesn't. But yeah, it's interesting to hear James O'Keefe say this.
Or maybe get a little caught up in it, but move on. But of course, you know, there's a bell curve of stability, and there are people on the extreme, I guess, left end who are going to.
Hey, there's that smile.
And generally start to plot violence. And now, just today, of course, as you know, CNN is coming. There's a war against journalism. It's like, no, there is not. No, there isn't. There's a war against lying. There's a war against misrepresentation. There's a war against propaganda. And they say that they're concerned that Trump's aggression towards journalism is going to result in journalists getting hurt. Now that whole point, saying that if you provoke a lot of people, then someone's going to get hurt. Well, I mean, where was this sensibility during the Mike Brown thing with the hands up, don't shoot?
Right.
Have they ever done exposés on Antifa and other left-wing violence? Have done exposés on the fact that if you're on the right and you try and give a public speech, you do so sometimes at peril of your own physical safety? They haven't engaged in any of that. And that, to me, just shows the agenda very clearly and in a very ugly way.
Well, yeah, and I think that feeds right into the next point here, which is the monopoly on virtue. There's two main other themes here: the monopoly on virtue, and I hate to use the word left-right because I really don't believe what we do is ideological. I don't. So I don't want to characterize myself or Veritas, my team, as a right-wing effort because I can't be right-wing. I can only show people the world. I can only show people reality. Reality is reality. It's not left or right, you know.
But here's the problem. You're not, see, that's the thing. At the same point that I'm trying to make, that this whole left-right divide, I don't want to add to that. But if you're going to talk about reality, dude, don't be using the word providential, that this is about providence from God. I mean, come on. And that's one thing I would love to see. If people on the quote-unquote right would finally realize, and I'm sorry, Ernest, because I think you mentioned you're religious. I don't know about you, obvious. I'm just going to say,
so don't worry about
there is no evidence for the existence of a supreme being, let alone a benevolent.
Oh, no. I don't believe. Is it muted or is it working?
Okay, now it's, you know, you're working. It's working.
Okay. Yeah, I do not. There is no evidence. There has been no evidence. There will be no evidence. It doesn't matter if a trillion lifetimes pass. There will never be a crumb of evidence to support some supernatural man-made deity floating around in the celestial nothing.
I see Ernest shaking his head there.
I'm just having a laugh. Listen, guys, like Nachi, you know, enough of these streams know that. I mean, I'm not going to come after you guys and be like, oh, well, you know, dump the Bible around. I can have a laugh too because I'm just imagining right now some giant bearded white dude just sitting up on a cloud and just being like, plague you today or not. And then just marry away. No, but I mean, listen. Everyone has their own beliefs. I respect that. That's
yes.
I don't really mind. I make fun of it if I'm just to be honest.
Look, if somebody wants to believe in some man-made, ritualized religion,
Listen, if I had to be anything, I would be a Zoroastrian because it's all just burning stuff. It's just fun.
I think I saw Zoroastrian in some other video right now, just really recent. Maybe that's a sign from God. I don't know. But I think I saw someone.
Actually, you could be the next prophet of Zoroaster. I don't know, man. You could wake up one day and just be like, fire purifies all, and just start. I didn't want to encourage any person, but.
Well, the thing with Zoroastrian in the burning of things, it's supposed to be symbol. From what I understood, but then again. This is coming from secondhand sources because the religion's been dead since the Babylonian times.
Well,
but from what I understood, the burning of things is supposed to be ritualistic.
It's a purifying flame, I believe it is. I know some Zoroastrians, and it's still around. It was pretty much wiped out during the Islamic conquests of Persia because it destroyed I believe it's the Sassanid Empire. History. But they're still around kicking, and religion now, but I mean, it's actually pretty interesting because it's kind of like a predecessor to Christianity, but it's religion, and everyone has their own belief, and if you want to believe in a magic sky daddy or a magic sky mommy or the
no. I have no problem with people ignorantly believing in a set of man-made laws. However, no matter what is written in those books, it does not supersede the laws of the universe.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yes, the very laws that make up the fabric of the universe make up our entire existence, regardless of what a 5,000-year-old book says.
Funny story. When I was younger, I was going to the city, and I was talking to this priest, and I said to him, I said, he was a Catholic priest, I said, Father, I said, should I believe everything that's in the Bible? And looks at me and just goes, no. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, most of that's not true. I was like, yeah, it's mostly just stories made to illustrate a point. So the flood, yeah, that probably didn't happen. And the burning bush, yeah, probably didn't happen. And the 10 Commandments, a giant slab of rock down a cliff when you're in your 80s, probably didn't happen. He's like, he probably had like two guys carrying it, and then he chipped it in himself using he's like a piece of bone. Just listen. Just be a good person, and go to church occasionally. All right, thanks, Father.
Well, to rein it back in, by the way, to rein it back into CNN, this doesn't end up being a clickbaity video. The point I was trying to make with James O'Keefe is that if you really want to stick to the truth and you're going to claim you're not ideological, by all means, please don't go around saying that this is fucking providence from God. You know what I mean? And that's the interesting thing that I'm seeing with this whole left-right divide. And like I was saying, if the people on the right, if the religious people finally realize, hey, look, there is no God, we're all fucking wrong, maybe we could finally even get rid of the whole Islamic terrorism problem that we have. Because I think part of the reason why so many Muslims hold on to their religion is because they see how Christians hold on to theirs. And it becomes like this tribal warfare.
But we don't really have any exploding vicars going around. You don't see too many priests going, Jesus loves me, and then boom.
I agree. In terms of, but I think that's part of what happens. I think that adds fuel to the fire. And then, like the point I was trying to make is that if the right could finally realize that, and then people on the left, that they finally just understood basic economics and they stopped fucking entertaining socialist ideas. You know, the only quasi, and it's not even socialism, the only thing that I'm starting to see the light on is maybe the solution to the healthcare crisis in this country. Like I've said before, and I don't want to get sidetracked with that. It might have to be fucking single payer, I think, to a certain degree. But that's the thing. I think if you're really honest and you're really objective about stuff, you start seeing, oh, wait, this is how that works. That's how this works. And I wish we had more of that in the media, which is why you see so many of these, like CNN imploding, and why then what you would think, okay, Project Veritas and Rebel Media, well, they have the answers. No, they fucking don't either.
Nachi, just very quick about the single payer. If I may make one quick statement on that, and we can get back to the whole hullabaloo. A federalized single-payer healthcare system in the United States is, I think, impossible. I think it has to be up to the states. I've looked into Mark Levin, if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah.
And I'm really a big fan of states' rights, and it really inspires my own beliefs. And a federalized healthcare is absolutely terrible. It's good enough in Canada because we don't have your massively overburdened population and such. But if we had any more than we have now, the healthcare system would probably collapse in on itself. My God, you have to wait 3 years to see a psychiatrist here for frig's sakes.
No, granted. But I think a lot of those things can be ironed out. But let's not get sidetracked with that. Let's try to keep...
Definitely CNN. By the way, I have to say this: the last time I watched CNN was when the second Gulf War started, and That's the only time I remembered it, and it wasn't fake news, because I remember when Baghdad got the shit bombed out of it. Remember the whole shock and awe?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, I stayed up. I was a kid. I stayed up till like 3 o'clock in the morning watching them blow up Baghdad. And after that, I just stopped watching CNN because it was just terrible.
No, and it's interesting to see. It is interesting to see when all the all the ideologies seem to collide, or they seem to align at the very least.
You know what's costing? Sorry. You know what's costing CNN and a lot of these news organizations their views? Their lack of integrity. Their lack of ability to be honest, even on a minute basis. Every time you think CNN is telling the truth about something, they get caught with their pants down, flat out lying about it. And not only do they obviously lie about it, they then come up and concoct magical stories to defend themselves. And again, this is why people were outraged about this whole shitposting incident. It wasn't so much the fact that the guy made a stupid shit post. It's the fact that CNN got so butthurt over it that they went out of their way to maliciously attack this person.
It lives up to its name.
He provided quite a bit. Look, I'm going to share a little bit from Philip DeFranco. Like, he did a great job, of course, but Philip DeFranco is not a solo act. Philip DeFranco, from what I understand, the guy's already got a team. He's got editors, he's got researchers and all that. And good for him. I love the fact that guy
can afford it.
Here's what the guy supposedly had been tweeting before. Let me show you a couple, which are pretty nasty. They're pretty nasty.
Transparent that there was no deal. And so at this point, here's where I want to chime in. Right here at the top of this opinion, I want to point out I am not a fan of Solo's history online. There are multiple instances online of him using slurs against black people.
It just flew. Hold on a second. Let me get this one.
Instances online of him using slurs against black.
What fires 200 shots into a crowd and only hits the pavement? A nigger. I mean, that's fucking nasty, dude. You know, and I'm not even trying to virtue signal or anything, but I mean, come on. For people who are genuinely interested in making the world a better place to live for everybody else, this doesn't help.
Okay, yeah, granted, the guy is...
All right, just let me go over the next couple ones, you know.
Okay.
Spotted the faggot liberal cuck.
Racist stuff against Chinese.
The fucking dumb chinks.
People. Posts about Muslims.
It's at least, you know, we can laugh about it and stuff like that, but, you know, apparently... And then at least one of the things that Philip DeFranco was pointing out is that this is a forum that's specifically for all-out shit posting. I mean, just go fucking knock yourself out. Just say whatever the hell you want. So
4chan.
Yeah. Don't take it too seriously. And I believe things like that, we should have the freedom of speech to be assholes if you want. But let's also realize that. But then, of course, to then now tie that in and to make it seem like, oh, this is what Donald Trump sides with. That's bullshit too, and it's such a convoluted fucking mess.
But see, again, that's my whole point. It's the fact that CNN took this guy who's obviously a shitposting troll, and I'm guilty of that in many ways. I go on chat rooms and occasionally just, you know, fuck around. I don't think I've ever gone to that level of shit posting yet, but, you know, then again, I try to be cautious on what I say. But it's CNN's reaction that has pissed everybody off. You have a professional news agency that claims to be of a high standard, and as soon as somebody criticizes them, they act like a bunch of crybabies.
They act like Christy Winters. They're threatening to dox pretty much. You know,
yeah,
they go
full SJW tactic of, yeah, well, you want to make fun of us? Well, we'll dox you. We'll give your personal info out. We'll say who you are. We'll expose what you've been saying online. You don't fuck with CNN. We're like the mafia.
But by the way, they're the Clinton News Network. And being associated with the Clintons should be used to having their pants down.
Yeah. The Clintons and there's a really good
and bullying people who talk about them.
There's a really good old YouTube documentary. It didn't start off on that. It was actually done by a professional agency. But they had something called the Clinton Crime Family or the Clinton Chronicles. And it was done right at the time Bill Clinton got into office. And it chronicled all the crap that they were involved in prior to him getting elected as president.
Oh yeah, Futuregate, fucking Paddlegate, fucking there were so many things.
You had everything from their involvement in not Marina, but Mena, Arkansas, with the drug running of cocaine.
Oh, his brother.
You had them involved in CIA activities with ratting out protesters while they were in college. Bill Clinton had activity in Russia for like a short period while he was in college dodging a draft.
Yeah.
He went over to Russia to do Lord knows what.
Well, Bubba, I already know what he was up to down there. He was testing out the local Russian females.
Yeah.
That's what he was studying. That's what he was. Well, he was dodging that. Well, probably dodging their fathers too. He was getting some practice in.
Oh yeah. It turns out that Hillary Clinton may have been paid by either the FBI or the CIA to rat out fellow protesters at the college she went to and the university.
No, I would not be surprised. By the way, over here in Miami, the interesting thing is that CNN was always referred to as the Castro News Network. And trust me, I'm not going to go off on that fucking tangent, but just to let you know, it's just interesting to see. CNN has this history. They have a history of being, I don't even want to say liberal. Like I said, I want to defend that word. Not even the left. They're just regressives. I think that's the word that should be used for these types of people from now on. Regressives. That's what they're doing.
Castro, Nachi, I still owe you.
Still owe me what?
I got that little gift I was going to do up for 4th of July, but the weather got in the way. It's me, Che Guevara, and a bit of lighter fluid and a very nice cigar. So it'll be a interesting old flag.
Cool, man. Cool.
First thing is, it was Canada Day, and I didn't want to go and burn a red flag on Canada Day because they would have thought that it was me burning the actual Canada flag.
Wait. I'm sorry, because I was just checking one comment over here. You were saying now about the Canadian flag. What, you were thinking of burning a Canadian flag?
No, God, no. What it was that since the flag I was going to burn, because it was Che Guevara flag, and I'm just like, I know you hate Che, and I can't stand him either. So I was like, I'm going to give Nachi a great Canada Day gift. So I was driving around trying to find a beach with a fire pit that I could burn this flag in a really cool manner. I'd had it choreographed and everything.
Oh.
And then it turned out that there's all these people around having Canada Day fires, and the worst thing is that the flag is red and Canada's colors are red and white. So I was like, if I go and try to do this, they may think this is a Canada flag, and then I may get beaten to death with a rock. So it's gonna have to wait. So I tried to wait, and then it rained the next 2 days. So I was like, crap, and then I had to work. So. Unfortunately, your 4th of July gift is there. Yeah, the well-meaning was there. It's still in the car, not the fluid, but just the flag is in the car, just waiting for an opportune time.
I definitely appreciate the sentiment, man. So
no worries, dude. I've been meaning to get rid of that thing anyway, and I don't want to sell it because somebody will just use it for socialism, and I can't allow that.
Send it over my way. I'll fucking gladly burn that shit on live stream.
Oh yeah, man. Actually, you know what? Hell, I'll do it. You get a P.O. box, I'll ship it to you, man.
Hey, your prime minister has already said that Fidel Castro is one of the greatest socialist leaders of all time. He is a hero amongst men. I don't know his actual quote, but he was just short of sucking his dick.
He was legendary, and the first premier of my province was a fan of Fidel. Fidel Castro actually came to Newfoundland and went sliding. He went snow sledding. I'm not even kidding. We let him go to a place called Gander, and he went sliding on a hill, and nobody tried to kill him. Ironically, but there's a documentary called "Waiting for Fidel."
Oh yeah, that's a great one. I've seen that.
Oh, that's Joey Smallwood. That's the premier of Newfoundland. He tried to meet Fidel because he was like a hero.
Yeah.
And Fidel couldn't even be bothered to see this little idiot, so it just didn't work out.
But they went with this guy who was like a capitalist. He was like they presented him as the capitalist, but he was like the owner of a broadcasting station. I forgot right now. Let me see if I can look it up real quick.
No, there's a different one. This is because there's Waiting for Fidel, and that was the one about Joey Smallwood. That was the premier of Newfoundland, right. And he kept trying to. He waited at an airport in Havana and never got to see Fidel. Apparently, he missed him. And then
Goff Sterling was the name of the other guy. Newfoundland media mogul Goff Sterling and director Michael. Yeah. And they had some interesting conversations there, at least with some of the locals and some students at this one college. And, and when they're like talking about, well, socialism is about, to each his own, according to each's needs, or according to each's wants, you get your needs. That whole fucking phrase, which I forgot it right now. The guy, the media mogul guy, the fucking capitalist, he's like, dude, that's exactly what you do in fucking capitalism. If you need a fucking 3-bedroom house, you work that hard to get the 3-bedroom house. If you want a 1-bedroom house and that's all you need, you only work that much for the one. You know what I'm saying? It's just whatever, man. It's.
By the way, Nachi, to get your mind off socialism and calm me down a little bit, I have an interesting story from Newfoundland. If you want to hear it really quickly. It'll
sure, and then if you want, tell me the thing that you wanted to talk about of what you're doing, what you're trying to promote and stuff.
Oh yeah, well I mean, me and Lenny got this new podcast done up, and the first interview was me discussing my run for council in my area, and
wait, you said me discussing my run for, and then you got cut off. That's the problem. You missed the most important words.
I got to get a better one. I'm sorry about that. I'm running on a iPhone headset, but now I'm running for council here, and I have already promised, and I'm going to put it in writing, that if I get elected, I'm taking 20%. I'm taking 20% of the salary, and I'm donating it to local charities, because I honestly don't need the money that much. I mean, it'd be nice, but there's a lot of poverty here, and people need help, and I want to do. Besides my role as counselor, if I get in, and I honestly hope I do, I also want to give a little back to this community, because it needs the help. And no other counselor that I know of has ever done this. So hopefully, yeah, I mean, listen, I'll put it in writing, and if I get elected and I ever don't do it, I will let you lambaste me, and you can do a little caricature of me being a dick. That I give you full permission.
By the way, what would the salary be?
It's not really that much. It's like $1,500 a month.
$1,500 a month. It's Canadian dollars.
I guess it's $700 American. But I mean, it's still a decent chunk of change for someone like me.
Wait a second. Wait. This has got to be wrong. Wait, $700 a month. Let's go with your Canadian dollars. What is it in Canadian dollars?
It's about $1,500 if I'm not mistaken.
$1,500 a month times 12, $18,000 a year, dude. You shouldn't be donating anything, but you should be keeping that money for yourself.
No man. Listen, Nachi, it's not. It's important that I help people out here. This is why I want to get into politics. I want to do what my grandfather couldn't finish. And it's really important to me, man. So, I mean, I don't mind taking this little bit of money that I'm making and putting it towards helping out people here, because it's, like I said, man, this place is in rough shape.
No, it's great.
It needs my help, and like I said, I'm going to put it in writing, because one thing I'll never want to be called is a hypocrite. But here's a fun thing right now, by the way, and if you're looking for a job, this is the thing to be, especially if you live in Newfoundland. If you're a first mate on a ferry, you could make $204,000 in a year.
What? I might fucking move.
Yeah, because what happened, and it's all overtime. It's all overtime. The average salary for a first mate, and this is a coastal ferry. These things run like 2 times a day, and the ships and it's maybe what, like a couple hour run. It's not a big hard job. You know, you're just sailing in a little boat, and you're just going around picking up people and stuff. A cook on these boats made $54,000 in base salary, but once overtime and other pays were factored in, earned $129,700 last year. The highest paid employee in the core provincial government, earning more than any cabinet minister, deputy minister, or the premier, which is the governor for anyone who doesn't know us, was a first mate on a ship. The mate's base pay was $78,400, but overtime brought the total to $204,100.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, and it's because apparently Transport Canada makes it required. You have to have a first mate or something on duty at all times. And the funny thing is, we bought our boats from Romania, and they suck. They keep breaking. Every 2 months something happens, like they catch on fire, or things just don't work, or the fridge doesn't freeze properly for the martinis, and you know it's all trouble. Just kidding with the martinis, but here's the best part: 93% of the cost of the ferry service is covered by taxpayers rather than ferry users.
Oh.
And you don't want to know. If I could find the number and give it to you, you would pound your head against a desk and scream, "Why?"
Hello, hellbound heathen. Sorry, I was announcing the new person.
Oh, hey, yeah.
And I'm really glad that you have integrity and that you're going into this for something other than yourself.
Well, because the reason I do it, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I feel like, honestly, I even feel guilty that I'm talking about it right now. It's just, you know, you guys are pretty cool, and I might as well just say it and get it out there. It's just that I don't see politics as a paycheck. I see it as I actually want to try to do some good. And if I want people to hold my feet to the fire, I'm so used to having that happen to me that I'd expect it even if I'm a politician. And I've seen the ones in my district do such a bad job that I honestly do not want that to happen anymore. You know, even if I get elected to the House, like in 2019, there's a provincial election, and the salary for them is $95,000. I only want to make 75. I just want enough that I can save up, get a mortgage like normal people, and get a little tiny house. I don't need something big and fancy. I just want to help. And Nachi, if you're still doing this, I will even send you the document. You can put it out on Facebook, put it on anything, because you got a bigger range than I do.
What? I got like maybe right now 6 people watching, right? At least we got a hellbound that just joined us.
Dude, you hit 900 subscribers, and I
might be a detriment to your campaign. You may not want to mention me.
I'll just be like, hey, this angry masked Cuban guy is my friend. Awesome, and we're gonna like wrestle the problem head on. I don't even know.
So, hellbound heathen, how goes life?
Hold on 1 second.
Quickly to say, my best supporter is a 12-pound cat, so I'm doing pretty good.
Nice, man.
I'm still waiting for that video where you tear Josh Reeves apart, because that guy has been on the. He's a rather obscure conspiracy theorist that has been around since, I think, the 9/11 truther movement.
Yeah, hey, I'm sorry. I had to switch so you guys didn't hear an echo to headphones. So I'm so sorry, obvious. I think I missed that whole thing. But are you talking about that video that you and I were talking about? We had a couple of DMs to each other.
Yeah, I really have been waiting for somebody to have the patience to just really give Josh Reeves a good look over on his ginormous 10-year list of insane ramblings.
Yeah. I've just been so. I have so many videos that people want me to do and I want to do, and yeah, I mean, I know that whole thing came from the Michael Aquino, who was accused, but you know, Michael Aquino wasn't even associated with that preschool in San Francisco. And yeah, I mean, just these conspiracy theories, what they do is they link things together, and it's like your brain starts to hurt when you start unwrapping all of these things, because it's like trying to get into the mind of somebody who's absolutely insane.
Well, the thing about Michael Aquino is it always goes back to his alleged pedophile, Satanist, blah 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 bullshit. But nobody sits down and really looks at what he did with his military career. That's what fascinates me about the guy. It's not so much his religion or his beliefs or the myriad of alleged things, but it's his actual real military career that gets buried. And the guy did just crazy. His involvement in the military is should be far more fascinating, but it always comes back to, yeah, well, the guy's a pedophile Satanist. It's like, yeah, but look what he did in the military.
Wait a second, was he a pedophile?
No, but that's the allegation that constantly gets thrown around.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, obvious. Even that PDF that you sent, I think you sent me and Nachi and some other people who were in that hangout that day. When I read that, it wasn't all that like, and you know, it wasn't all that amazing. He was basically just talking about psychological warfare, you know, and that's been part of military campaigns or military understanding since, you know, the art of war. I mean, psychological warfare is a part of warfare. I mean, you see it all the time. You see it in sports. You see it in games. I mean, psychological warfare has always been a part of war. So,
right, but I think the thing with Michael Aquino, though, is his refinement of psychological warfare and incorporating not only electronic warfare to it, just the level of refinement that he brought to it is what makes it fascinating.
Can you be a little specific? Because I'm trying to remember the article. There was a mention about that towards the end of that particular article, where they were talking about using sound waves to distribute, like almost like a subliminal type of.
Yeah,
But you can do that today. Like if you sit there and you get in somebody's face and you yell at them and talk about all the things you're going to do to them, that's essentially the same thing, but you're just not using a loudspeaker for it. So again, I just don't really understand what is so amazing about what Michael Aquino did with psychological warfare. You know?
Sorry to interrupt there, guys. I'm heading out there. I got work in the morning and I'm pulling a late shift. So it was good chatting to you guys, Heathen. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to chat to you more. But Nachi, man, thanks for inviting me on, and
thanks for being on, bro.
Anytime, man. Obvious. We'll be in chat. We'll be in touch. And have a good night, guys.
You
All
too.
right.
Thanks.
And-
What I
and sorry,
find about it so fascinating.
Mhm.
What I found so fascinating about it is the fact that it's. I'm trying to sum it up in words. Yeah, there's always been psychological warfare, but the fact that the guy's entire military career, for the greater portion of it, was devoted to it, and
Well,
it brought a
in the
really
PSYOP.
technological aspect to it.
Right. But he was in that PSYOPs division. That's what he was in. And also that article, again, that you sent us, he didn't even write that. He wrote that with somebody else. And it was a presentation paper. I don't have it in front of me, but it wasn't even like really groundbreaking from his point of view. He was basically just giving, he and somebody else wrote that paper. So, I mean, his military career probably began just like everybody else's military career. They start out as a grunt, work their way up, and then he got into PSYOPs. So, I mean, I'm just wondering what you find really amazing. Most people, what they do is they point out, oh, well, he has like funny looking eyebrows, and he's also a Satanist and a friend of LaVey, and started the Church of Set. And then from there, they start piling on all these other crazy conspiracies. But if you look at the man's career, I mean, it wasn't like he was doing anything really amazing. He was just part of the PSYOPs division.
Oh, it's the fact that it's not just that paper he wrote. He wrote several other papers that were actually pinned by him, where he does describe in great details the very technical nature of psychological warfare and how powerful it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder, by the way, I'm trying to rein this back into the actual fucking title of this.
Oh, sorry about that, Nachi.
No, let me tell you, though, psychological warfare, and I'm trying to rein it back into fucking Trump's tweets.
Oh.
Let me ask you guys, what do you guys fucking think about Trump's tweets? And is this psychological warfare that he's playing with the media?
Go for it, obvious. I'll follow you.
No, let me hear you, Hellbound. What do you think about some of these tweets? Because actually, I was going to screen share and read some of the tweets that he's got. Like,
honestly, I think, okay, the man is not a politician. He is a businessman. He's also a narcissistic, egotistical fucking idiot.
I wouldn't say he's a total idiot. I don't.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't. You're right. I mean, okay. All right. He's not a total fucking idiot. I'm all right. I'll take that back. But I think that his PR person needs to take his Twitter away, because everything that he does on Twitter, it's not good, and it ends up biting him in the ass. So that's my opinion of it in a nutshell.
And that's what I wanted to see, because it is interesting to see some of these tweets that he's got. Let me see if I can actually expand this. Like this one. I mean, this is like foreign policy 101, what not to do. Like this one right here. North Korea. And I wanted to do a Donald Trump impression. I was trying to practice, but I'm terrible at it. So I'll spare you guys that. North Korea has just launched another missile. Does this guy have anything better to do with his life? Hard to believe that South Korea.
Right.
And then he just leaves an ellipse. Hard to believe that South Korea. What?
Yeah.
Unless I don't know how to use this. What the fuck? And okay, here it is. Hard to believe that South Korea ellipses and Japan will put up with this much longer. Perhaps China will put a heavy move on North Korea and end this nonsense once and for all. Hey, dude, I agree. But as the president of the United States, to just be fucking putting out these it's like, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if he's like a genius that's fucking just playing all of humanity, or if he's just a guy who got extremely lucky and he's just fumbling his way through the dark.
Look, my opinion of Donald Trump has been the same opinion I've always had since his early presidential career, when he started getting on there. The thing is, he's a narcissistic egotist. Everything about Trump is Trump. Down to the way he brands his merchandise, the way he markets himself, the way he conducts himself. It's a ginormous Trump fest. And it's infuriating because I'd like to see him have, I don't know, some professionalism.
Or just some compassion and some fucking good judgment. Like the whole thing with Mika Brzezinski, and this is where it is interesting to see who supports the shit that he talks about and who doesn't. When he was doing the whole thing with Morning Joe and Mika Brzezinski, and how many people jumped to his defense. I'm like, dude, there's no defending that. I mean, I don't think there's any need for the outrage, and I can see why the Morning Joe crew milked it for all it was worth. But dude, for him to be saying that kind of stuff, man, it's just,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He needs to have somebody like he needs a PR person like to filter his tweets before they go out, because so far we still are one of the, if not the most powerful country in the entire world. Our military surpasses, I think, almost any other military. So, you know, he's got to be very careful about what he does. He has to understand that he is the face of the United States and the face of the Western world, really. And he still thinks he's kind of like in a board meeting with other people, and anything that he says, other people are just going to be like yes men around him, and he doesn't really. There's no other consequences for his actions. All of his consequences are what he deals with, and usually whips out his checkbook, writes a check, and fixes that problem.
Right, and that's my biggest issue with him is he is the highest representative for the American people on a world stage.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's acting like a complete jackass and having a tweet temper tantrum, well, it makes us all look bad because they're like, oh, well, you know, Americans, they're a bunch of loudmouth, you know, so-and-so. And that's how people see us. When I talk to people from other countries, they're like, yeah, Americans are really loud, they're obnoxious, they're rude, and they're uncultured.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that our president's that way.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe that he kind of like reflects all American society, but I mean he fills the role of the president of the United States. And you know, like we were talking about psychological warfare, there's a lot of psychological warfare in being quiet about stuff. Like if there's a country doing something and you're not reacting to it, that's powerful. Not reacting to something is almost more powerful than sending out some, you know, threat, you know, about we're going to invade you or whatever. So especially everything is a stage too, you know, especially the guy in North Korea, I forget his name, but he likes to puff his chest up and make all kinds of empty threats and all this stuff. And if you're somebody who doesn't react to that, you don't play into that game. But if you do start reacting and start doing stupid stuff like this, you're playing into that guy's hand. And then he can milk it. He can say, well, we've got intercontinental ballistic missiles pointed at you at such and such. You know, and I mean, that's a very dangerous game when you start getting playing at his level. You know, and I think, unfortunately, that tweet is sort of playing that level.
No, for sure. And I think, well, the thing with North Korea, it just seems to be a pattern. But from what I understand, now they've crossed the threshold. Now they crossed the threshold where it's an actual intercontinental ballistic missile, which is still pretty weak and all that. But they're getting closer and closer to the point where I think even Russia is like, dude, I think we're going to need to fucking do something about this tumor of a society on the fucking planets, because they're getting to that point where they're you know, they could do some fucking damage to, at the very least, Japan and South Korea, and I also and let alone their own people. That's the other fucking amazing thing.
It's kind of like when Trump decided to blow his load and go blow up an airbase in Syria by firing off those Tomahawk missiles.
And it's interesting to see the people who were against that, and just right now in YouTube land, the Stefan Molyneux, the Sticks, Hex, and Hammers, everyone that was against Trump doing that with Syria, which I kind of liked and I appreciated. I was like, okay, at least these guys are consistent with the principles that they speak. They were totally okay when I think it was just a month or two ago that North Korea did something else, and now I forgot. And they were like, yeah, you know what? If we need to fucking take out North Korea, we're going to just need to take them out. And they were even arguing it like what I would believe on a humanitarian basis, to just because North Korea is a nation held hostage, which is why I've always been so pissed off also about Cuba. I always felt, sorry, I'll make it quick, but
everything comes back to Cuba with you.
Always comes back to that fucking piece of dick. And, but it's one of the few countries. Here's the ironic thing. The ironic thing is when people talk about nations and the ones that are like the sore thumbs on the planet, it's usually been North Korea and Cuba. Like they're some of the few countries, I think, with the exception of which one else? I'm trying to think. But there's some of the few countries that are just like they were like hanging on. Myanmar is another one. Myanmar or / Burma, whichever one you want to call that one. There's these few countries that are just, they're like insane. And my family happens to be from one of them. That's just a fucking coincidence.
Yeah, and in comparison, you know much more about Cuba than I do, but I think Cuba and North Korea are in the same boat, as they have a dictator that once that dictator passes away, I think that's going to help the country move forward. You know what I mean?
It hasn't happened in North Korea.
It hasn't happened in North Korea.
They're like now down to the grandson.
Yeah.
They're down to the grandson now. And clearly over there, here's the interesting thing about North Korea versus in Cuba. In North Korea, I get the feeling that it's clearly not just Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un. It's that little inside circle of people, that little coterie that he has. And I wonder to what extent there's a push and pull going on between them, where they're like, now that little fucking kid, because I look at him and he just looks like this psychotic Pillsbury Doughboy. This kid who's, I think, is he still in his 20s? I should look that up. If he's not in his late 20s, he's in his early 30s.
Yeah, he's pretty young.
Like huh?
I was just saying, I was agreeing with you. He's pretty young.
Yeah, they're like they're trying to outdo each other. Like in order for him to stay in power, I think he's probably figured out. He's like, all right, dude, I got to show that I'm down for killing anyone, including my own brother. Yeah. Whereas over in Cuba, this piece of shit Fidel Castro, he held it down the whole time. You know what I mean? And I don't think there was ever a power struggle between him and his inner circle. I think his inner circle always just was like, yes, 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 yes. There wasn't a whole lot of that. Whereas over in North Korea, there seems to be this power struggle. And that's why he's killing Kim Jong-un, is like publicly making it known to the North Koreans. Look, I've killed my uncle, I've killed my girlfriend, and I've killed my own fucking brother. What more do you want from me? And that's what I find psychotic. It's amazing that an entire society is like, yes.
Well, yeah, but they're doing that because they don't want to get killed. But let's also look at it from another perspective. Let's look at it from the perspective of the risk game of the world. So you have countries like China and Russia, America definitely, that have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They have nuclear weapons. They now are a superpower. They have basically, mutual assured destruction. They have that weapon. They have that capability, that power. So if you're a nation like North Korea and you start developing your own first intercontinental ballistic missile, that's kind of like playing with the big boys. Now you have a weapon that puts you on the map, and that's how they're looking at it. They're looking at it like, we can have this because it ensures protection for us. So they have missiles. Somebody else is going to hit them because they have missiles. So,
But
so yes, I mean, it's kind of, you have to look at it from that point of view. Maybe they're not going to use them, but maybe they just want them to sort of secure their position of power in the world.
That's the thing, though. I think China, didn't they have a lot of influence in the nuclear program? Because at one point in time, before the current leader Xi Jinping, I can never pronounce his name. Yeah, didn't the previous guy, that guy that looked like a toad, I can never pronounce his name, the other guy.
I have no idea. I just
it's Gianna. I can never pronounce his name. He looks like a toad. China Uncensored makes fun of him all the time, but they were trying to basically buy their way into owning North Korea, like they do with a lot of other countries. And then when the new faction of the Chinese government got in power, it derailed a lot of that. Because I know the U.S. was trying to bank on whether or not China would just eventually take North Korea or just own it by proxy. And that would solve a lot of our problems if China just unofficially owned it. It would be less of a headache, I think.
Yeah, I know. And then bringing this back to Trump's tweets, here we have one of the ones that he put. Trade between China and North Korea grew almost 40% in the first quarter. So much for China working with us, but we had to give it a try. It's just amazing that this is how he fucking deals with it, dude.
Yeah, he doesn't quite understand that tweets are available to anyone in the entire world.
Yeah, it's nuts. What is nuts, I think also, and that's, I think at the point of this whole stream that I wanted to do with the whole thing of CNN, the blackmail and Trump's tweets, is to show that there really is no defending this either. Like, there's definitely no defending CNN and their quasi blackmail fucking. But what Trump is doing, I don't think is very defensible either, man.
No. I mean, it's stupid too. But I mean, CNN is like threatening this person, and now there's even question about the person. It's like, I mean, it's just as stupid. I mean, but CNN they took this position. The media took this position of they can do whatever they want. So, you know, you should be able to make fun of the president, and I sort of agreed with that. Comedians can joke about it. Musicians can make songs about it. And yeah, I mean, the president is not above scrutiny. And then they turn around and the president makes fun of them. And now they get all upset and they say, oh, no, because he's gonna incite violence against the media. It's like, well, wait, what happened to nobody's above criticism or scrutiny? You know?
Exactly. And my biggest complaint with the mainstream media is, again, time and time again, they just get caught in not only propagating narratives, lies, false stories, hit pieces, and just unscrupulous activity, but the moment they get called out on it, they immediately go into the attack mode.
Mm-hmm.
And they just start tearing at people. And it's like, if you don't want to be called out for your shitty behavior, then don't continue your shitty behavior.
The only thing is, it is insane to think, like, one of the things that I'm realizing as I grow up and the more I try to inform myself about the world and stuff, it scares me to see the level of psychopathy within many world leaders. And they really do not give a rat's ass about human life.
No,
No,
they don't.
That's what I find just wow. Because when you look at North Korea, you could almost make the case, dude, we have a humanitarian mission. You could almost say it would be a humanitarian mission to free that country, let alone other countries like Myanmar and Cuba and all these other countries that are fucking held hostage. And yet it's funny how it's just, I definitely understand you got to pick your battles wisely. You can't go to war with everyone. There's only so much time and energy and resources. but it's that's, I think that's why probably people hang on to religion because it's very hard for the human brain to compute the amount of human suffering there is out there that is just going on. And then again, who am I to judge? Because if I really believe that strongly too, I should join a military. I should go and fucking put my money where my mouth is. And
you know what's scary though? Could you imagine having somebody like Trump as the leader of our world, but we know we don't have any protection by Congress. We don't have the Constitution. We don't have a democracy. Could you imagine if he was let free to just rule however he wants as a tyrannical dictator? Could you imagine?
Not to change the subject, I'd like just to give a quick shout out to a friend of mine, Boo Bear, so that way she knows who's talking.
Cool, man.
It doesn't switch back and forth, and she's listening, so I figured I'd let her know who I was.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, no problem.
So, hello, Boo Bear.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, yeah, I agree with you, Nachi, and that's one of the things I'm glad that we have democracy in America, and we have sort of checks and balances. I feel that Congress and the Senate becomes corrupt, but at least we have that to sort of fall back on. We don't have one person sort of like being a tyrant, and so I'm grateful for that, because the people get into positions of power because they want power.
I would hate to see what a person like Hillary Clinton or Trump getting into office with absolutely no restrictions. Say we had a North Korean style government. Mm-hmm. I would hate to see what Trump would do. I would hate to see what somebody like Hillary Clinton would do, where the moment somebody pisses them off, it's off with their head like the Mad Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think Trump has that in him. Like, there's a part of me where you just look at his history and stuff like that, and especially dealing with the real estate up in New York City, where there's not a whole lot of mob ties that people were able to fucking pin him on. So I'm assuming he's not that bloodthirsty either. But yeah, judging from his tweets, the tweets alone that he puts out there, and even Melania, his wife, like, I think the last thing I read about her with, I think that when it came to the tweets about Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, she was like, well, if you tweet at him or you insult him, he punches back 10 times harder. You're like, this is not healthy for our fucking republic, dude. But
who is she referring to?
This is in passing. This is something that I think I remember just seeing in a headline. So for all I know, maybe she didn't even say that. Okay. Let me just look it up right now on fucking Google.
Was she talking about Trump punches 10?
Yeah, she's defending her husband.
Look, I don't think I was going to answer Eric Lee. I don't think Trump is a bloodthirsty individual. But I think anybody given godlike reign over a large population with no restrictions, all they'd have to do is go back to the medieval ages of Europe and see what some of the popes did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, and here it is on Daily Beast, by the way. I want to just share it with you so you can see. Let me do screen share. Maybe I'll finally get my control back on the fucking... Hold on a second. Here we go.
And who's the Daily Beast?
Daily Beast, I think they're a pretty, to a large degree, reliable news source to it. They're pretty large. I mean, maybe not to everybody, but at least political news junkies. I've definitely heard of them, and I think they were, oh man, I forgot the name of the woman who ran it. But anyway, Melania Spox, I don't know why they put that. Trump will punch back 10 times harder when attacked. And it was in response to President's Thursday morning tweets, waging personal war against MSNBC's morning show. And here's the other thing that makes it so.
Do they have a? If you scroll down, do they have a screenshot of the tweet?
Let me see.
I'm just responding to the chat. I agree, Lee, that this isn't the ancient Romans. We were hypothetically saying, if a person with Trump's personality was given unlimited free reign to do as he pleased, it would not end well. He has that kind of power-hungry mentality that, if unrestrained, he would use it terribly.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, if you want to see
90% of leaders probably would. Go ahead.
I was just going to say really quick, if you want to see somebody who's fucking taking that power to a whole other level, is Duterte. I think it's his name, Roberto Duterte from the Philippines, and how he waged war against on drugs. And now with the fucking, well, I guess with a couple of extremist, Islamic extremist groups that he has, are like, the equivalent of ISIS over in the Philippines. With that, I could almost understand. But when he just started just like fucking giving people like carte blanche to start killing anyone who's even suspected of selling drugs, insane. And then here's the crazy thing, and this is how they do it. There's enough people in the public that are more than willing to carry that out. There's enough other lesser psychopaths, that will do that. And I remember reading about that in this one magazine, because it always boggled my mind. How did like the Holocaust, how did that become a reality? How was one man like Adolf Hitler able to pull this off? And it's not just him. It's all the other psychopaths under him that are more than willing to do it. Yeah. And then you have the inner circle, and then you have the other underlings, and it's hard for it's hard for me to start realizing this shit. Like, wow, that there are people out there that are just, and I'm all for the death penalty. That's the weird thing. Like, I think it's also a matter of finding that fine balance.
Yeah. Well, especially after World War I, they just kind of like blamed everything on the Jews. It just became this. The propaganda, and also they became the scapegoats. And they just said, they're hoarding all of our money. They're taking our money from us. They're not giving us jobs. And it just became the target. And I mean, the Nazi Party was the National Socialist Party, Yeah. So,
well, I think with the Jews in World War II, they became the primary easy target. Europe has never had a good standing with the Jewish people prior to World War II. They have a long history with the Catholic Church and a lot of the monarchies of being. So Europe had a very ingrained dislike of the Jews. And Hitler knew this. Hitler was, before, I don't know if it's confirmed he had syphilis, but I think when the syphilis took hold, that's when the crazy started coming out. But he was smart enough to know how to polarize people. He knew what would get them on board. And it really didn't take much. I mean, after the failure of World War I, and the German people basically broke without resources, it did not take long for a powerful leader. If it wasn't going to be Hitler, it was going to be somebody else. Eventually, the Germans wanted their revenge.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, he rose to power. There were other groups, other political groups like Republicans and Democrats and stuff like that. I mean, the equivalent in Germany, they were rising to power, and they went around and basically just bullied those people and got people onto their side and sort of forced the victory. So the Nazi Party was already sort of doing this kind of shady activity even before Hitler got into power.
Right, but that's kind of my point. It only took having a person in a political party that was strong enough to polarize the people. They were able to climb and rise to the top. Sure, they did a lot of shady and disreputable stuff, but once they got a powerful figurehead like Hitler, they could draw in and really polarize the masses. And the German people were horribly they were just, I'm not sure if the word pissed off is right, but after the events of World War I and the Versailles Treaty, they were looking for blood. I mean, they were not happy about how things turned out.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
once they got this charismatic cult-like leader that just sold them on the gloriousness of the German master race, and that he had the ability to speak to the people. The ideology behind it and the political workings, even if Hitler didn't have an involvement in that, he still made the perfect man of the people.
Yeah, and I think they were desperate. I think they were really desperate for something too. So they were willing to, they were willing to give him authority and give him power. I mean, there's this one image I remember seeing, and I wish I could find it again. But there's Hitler's going through a crowd of people, and there's this one woman, and she just kind of like, she has her head like twisted off to the side, and she's like falling back, but her eyes are just like mesmerized. And for me, that encapsulates what happened in Germany during this time. There was this man who got into power, and he was charismatic, and the German people were almost like lost, like mesmerized by him. And they understood, they were seeing the evil of what was about to take place, but they played along with it anyway. That's what that picture encapsulates for me.
Oh yeah, did you ever, sorry to interrupt, did you ever see the pictures of the people like with the wheelbarrows full of German money standing in line for a loaf of bread?
Yeah, I've seen those, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
when you
ridiculous.
reach that level of desperation, no matter how insane it sounds, it's not nearly as insane as starving to death.
Oh yeah, that was one of the things that kind of put them over the edge. Not to mention at that place and time in history. I mean, just think about, I don't know about if you could measure by the IQ, but clearly people back then were not as astute and as on top of history itself and science and shit as we are nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I can only imagine the I guess what I'm trying to get at is the almost borderline mongrel mentality that must have fucking, taken hold of so many.
Actually, the German people prior to World War I were a highly sophisticated culture. After World War I, everything was devastated. They went from a high standard of culture and living to absolute desolation. They lost everything.
But was that high level of living for everyone, for like 75% of the population, or is it for just like 25% of the population or something?
If I remember correctly, it was a greater part of the population. Like they were actually doing really, really well, and they were entering into quite a high level of industrialization, even compared to the United States.
Yeah, I mean it's I'm sure that they're probably, I think I know what you're getting at there, Nachi. I think there probably was a small percentage of people who were pretty well educated to the standards of today. I mean, knowledge for humanity is just exponentially just grown since, like, especially the advent of communications, not just computers, but like phones and telegraphs and stuff like that from the 19th century. It's just really, knowledge has just grown. But before that, it's kind of like your knowledge was based to your community that you grew up in. You just went along with what everybody else said and thought, and that was how you kind of heard your news. You didn't have radio, you didn't have TV. Your neighbor said a story and you believed it.
No, for sure. Yeah. No, that's the evolution of mankind, which is just, it's crazy. And by the way, man, talking about that and like things that are just illogical, I've been catching up with some of your videos, and it is just nuts that there are people who still, the exorcism one, which by the way, you got me on that one. You ended up getting me on the exorcism one because I thought you were literally talking to the guy. So very nice editing.
I know, that was so funny. I like, all these people were in the comments like, why did you pay $295 for that? I was like, what? And people believe that I actually like called this guy and he did an exorcism with me. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was the editing in there. You overlap it because like in conversations,
right?
You don't have somebody shut up and then the other person talk. You want to overlap it a little bit because that's how actual conversations take place. So I think that was what kind of like really fooled people because it seems so real. But yeah, thank you.
That was a good one. And you had the other one of that other guy. Let me see, I'm looking back here. It was the one of how to catch a witch or a warlock in your camp. And I was talking, and that's the thing. Like, it's amazing to me that people believe this shit. You know, it's just nuts. And I don't know if you caught the beginning of this stream. I was talking about how, like, for example, for all the faults that we're finding on CNN, rightfully so, and they should be fucking called out for that. One of the guys that's really been digging at CNN has been James O'Keefe. Let me see if I forgot his name. Yes, James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, which I really respect the guy's work. Okay, I respect the guy's work and what he did, especially back with Acorn, the undercover thing and stuff. But he was on Steven Crowder and on Stefan Molyneux, and he's talking about how this whole thing of him, bringing down CNN, this is all providence from God. And I'm like, oh, wow. This is part of the problem that we're having too, man. Like that's, and then someone like fucking Steven Crowder, he's like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and yeah, because Steven Crowder's, I think he's religious himself. He's not an atheist.
For sure. Yeah. I'm not too surprised. I'm not too surprised that Steven Crowder didn't call him out on it. But Stefan Molyneux, when he was on it, because apparently it seems like James O'Keefe has this now as a talking point. At least with certain.
I saw this on the Joe Rogan show, and he was interviewing Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I like what Neil deGrasse Tyson said about religion. It's okay if people want to believe these ridiculous religious beliefs. It's not a problem until they get into a position of power and then start promoting it.
Or start and especially when it comes to government, when they start making policy based. That's the biggest problem. But that's the thing. Like, you have James O'Keefe saying this, obviously Steven Crowder going along with it, and then someone like Stefan Molyneux, which he should have been like, sorry, that. And especially if Stefan Molyneux is going to be promoting, hey, look, this is a show about philosophy and about truth. You got to call out that there is no providence to this.
Did anybody see that ridiculous video that Dennis Prager, with that Prager University channel, where he's talking about if people didn't believe in a Western Christian God, basically, they wouldn't have the moral. They wouldn't have the moral fortitude not to commit crimes and stuff. Where he basically, I didn't watch the whole thing because halfway through it, I just wanted to throw my phone.
Really?
Because I was like, I don't believe in the Christian Bible. I have a mental illness that borderlines psychotic tendencies. But even I know you don't go around murdering people. I don't need a book written by goat herders 2,000 years ago to let me know that I shouldn't murder somebody.
Right.
And not even 2,000 years ago, like even older than that.
I think it's a well-established fact at this point that there are certain things that are not okay. And murder at this point in humanity, I think we all realize it's not something that we should promote.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm ironically enough, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I don't have a lot of love for the Christian or the Catholic Church, but I am gonna say that I believe that the Catholic Church has had a positive influence on our culture, meaning that what it is it says, hey, go out there and help your fellow man. I think we got to give the church a little bit of credit for that.
And I'm all for the positive aspects of a religion. However, I like the generosity, the charitable works, and all that other stuff that goes along it. It's really nice, the positive aspects. However, there is the overwhelming bullshit that gets piled on top of it. It's like digging through a mountain of shit to find a kernel of corn. Yeah, it's nice when you find the good parts, but you still have a pile of shit around it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just like I said, I was just playing devil's advocate and just saying that I think that Christianity, especially Catholicism, actually has contributed to our society in a positive way, But yeah, I agree with you, because I mean, at least, oh man, I am so glad we don't follow our Bible to the T. Could you imagine if we put so much emphasis as some forms of Islam put on their book as we would on the Bible, taking a lot of the stuff literally as a political system? I mean, we'd be stoning people.
Oh yeah, it would be like we would be living in basically any Muslim majority country is what it would be like. We would be stoning people to death, throwing gays off of buildings, and putting garbage bags over women, essentially. Just some of the stuff that's written in the Bible is insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, dude, I'm gonna be wrapping this up now. Dude, it was great, dude. I do love making these live streams. It's a shame. I wish I could make them tighter, for like about an hour or something like that. But I get lost in the conversation, man, because it is fun.
It's easy to do. So hey, Nachi, do you do this on a regular day and time?
I'm trying to do the live stream on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Wednesdays is when I'm doing them, and then Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, is when I do mine. I know you do yours on Saturday nights, right? You do yours.
Yeah, but I also just started doing one on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and I know you're on East. Are you on Eastern time?
Yeah, but don't even worry. I mean, that's cool, man. I mean, that's part
Actually,
of.
No, I do. Excuse me. I do Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, no.
Pacific time.
I've been trying to do live streams, and I cannot get the software to work on a mobile Android tablet worth a shit. It's been terrible.
And I need to learn how to control this whole thing, because Billy Bung's the one that he taught me how to do it through the YouTube page, and to do it without that third-party plugin that I did the first time around. But one thing I lose, when I do the screen sharing, I tend to lose the control of that automatic switching back and forth. So
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about. Yeah. Like it'll focus on whoever's talking.
Exactly, and I've lost that now. At the beginning, I had it, but now I lost it after I started screen sharing.
That's weird.
Yeah, live streaming's been a new process for me.
And by the way, obvious, I've never seen your channel. So you have a channel then on YouTube?
Yeah, I've been trying my damnedest to do live book readings. I know my voice isn't exactly the best for it, but I've been trying to get a live book reading where you can see the pages of the book, and then we can have a live discussion about the book. Because I think there's a lot of important pieces of literature that often are quoted, but nobody's actually sat down and read. A great example of that is 1984. You hear people constantly throwing that book up, but very few people have actually read it. Most people quote from it, or they don't really understand the context of the book. And I'd like to start having like live book discussions.
Ah, good, man. Give that a shot, dude.
You'd probably run into a copyright issue. You'd probably have to take certain things and use it in a certain context. You probably couldn't read the whole book. Just putting that out there.
What I've been doing is going to Project Gutenberg because those are copyright-free books.
Mhm.
And anything that's in the Project Gutenberg library is copyright-free. So
Oh, good.
I have been going that route because I don't want to run into it to where it's questionable whether or not it's copyright. So
Mhm.
I've been going by that as a good source.
Oh, cool, man. Dude, just go for it. You'll find out quick enough with YouTube, because I remember one time posting up this one video that had a Beatles song, and after it uploaded, automatically it was like, nope, can't fucking make this public. This is and then it's interesting. I don't know if there's like a degree of copyright legitimacy, or I can't even imagine what the term would be. Because it was interesting that it being a Beatles song, it automatically blocked me from even being able to make it public. Yet I've had other things that have had copyright issues, and yet it goes up, but then it tells you that you cannot monetize it.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones that I'm surprised I get away with being able to monetize it,
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost hit and miss. Like usually what I do is I've learned now what I can use and what I can't use. And so I sometimes I put a video together and I'm like, you know what? I know I'm not going to get this monetized, but fuck it. I got to put it up there. I love this fucking video. I got to put it up. And then other times I've seen videos where I'm like, okay, and then I'll just take it down, edit out that music, and then put it back up.
Luckily, since I live on subsidies, I don't really have to worry about monetizing my videos, so I'm not really too worried about that. Like, making money off of them isn't really where I want to go with that. I just want to be able to actually have discussions with people, because I'm getting I had a problem the other day where somebody was talking about Alice in Wonderland, and they were talking about the history of it and stuff like that, and I was talking with them, and they didn't know, they hadn't even read the book. And I was like, how are you going to quote a book and talk about the history of it if you've never actually read the literary works of it? Like, yeah, I get the fact that Lewis Carroll had some questionable relations with a girl, I guess, if it was inappropriate at the time. But you're talking about a book, but you've never read the book, but you're going to sit here and tell me the context of the book.
No, and I think you're right. George Orwell's 1984, that's like the one book that everybody talks as if though they've read it. And
right, like they know the entire what it's all about. They understand the context of it, but they've never taken the time to really sit down and analyze what he was talking about.
Yeah. The only thing I do know about George Orwell is that the guy was a walking contradiction, because the whole thing, from what at least I understand, I've never read 1984. I just know it because it's so often quoted and all that. And it's an indictment on dictatorships, clearly, and authoritarian rule and mindless following, and yet the guy was a communist. So it's like, wait a second, if you're
I think he was actually a Fabian socialist.
Whatever, dude.
Let's get all specific.
I'm an anarcho-syndicalist and fucking whatever, dude.
Well, that's the thing. I'm really confused by George Orwell, because during his political career, he kind of had a political career where he heavily promoted Fabian socialism, which in a sense is basically communism, the European version of it. And on the other hand, he was very against communism in some of his works, like Animal Farm, where he talks about how communism is bad.
At least from what I understood, I thought the guy was, if not a communist, a socialist. And I'm not knocking the guy either. I mean, the guy, if I'm not mistaken, he volunteered for the Spanish Civil War. Like he put himself into a fucking war. I mean, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he was very all over the place. Like, he was against communism, but he promoted Fabian socialism.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it just at his heart he just wanted to see more equality throughout the world and society, especially living back then. Because I mean, he died. I know his death is 1948 because I just transposed 84 and 48. If I'm not mistaken, he died in 1948. So chances are the world that he saw, you know, was probably a pretty grim world, you know, living back then. And that's why I could almost relate with Karl Marx. I mean, Karl Marx lived during a time where he was well aware of human slavery, you know, especially in the United States. I could sort of see that desire to want to correct these unconscionable wrongs.
Well, most people don't realize prior to World War II and just right around after World War I, there was a huge push, even in America, for socialism. Socialism had become the new political buzzword.
Right. No, and I would not be surprised. And there was a time that people were admiring Mussolini, if I'm not mistaken, also.
Oh, yeah. There was a time before Hitler's more nefarious activities got leaked out, where he was considered a savior of the Christian race. He was seen as a good old American apple pie individual by many of our industrialists. And that was, of course, until we started, the people started seeing what Hitler was actually about. And, you know,
Joe
it was
Kennedy,
nice.
by the way. I got to throw that one in there. Fucking John F. Kennedy's father defended, if I'm not mistaken, defended Adolf Hitler. Defended Nazism for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there was even a small group in America that was like, they opened up a little Nazi place. Like they were all for Nazism.
Oh yeah, the Ford, the what's his name? Ford, the inventor of the Ford motor Model T. He was very pro Hitler. He thought Hitler was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
And he also was the one who really distributed that false document, the Prophets of Zionism.
Yeah, the Protocols of Zionism, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, it was something with the P of Zion, which is just complete, just like rubbish. And it was like, it was supposed to be this the pamphlet of Zionism. It was supposedly this meeting of these Jewish leaders had this meeting, like, and laid out this plan of how to take over the world and get the banks and all this stuff. And Henry Ford just kind of like distributed this pamphlet, but it was all, it was all bullshit. And it was also what the Nazis used to justify their hatred.
On a side rant, George Bush's granddaddy, the very first Bush, not the second, not the third, the very first Bush, the guy who helped found the CIA, he was very heavily into supporting the Nazis. And after the whole war crime tribunals and everything, he didn't want to get indicted. He also helped set up the OSO, and there's a conspiracy theory that he set up the OSO to cover his ass because he was betting on both sides.
Wow.
And the guy that invented the IBM computing machines, they were sending supplies over to Nazi Germany. I mean, it's not like American industrialists didn't profit from the war.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, dude, no, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I think I'm gonna drop out. So I just wanted to thank you
for jumping in, Hellbound man. It was nice to catch up with you again.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for having. And nice talking with you again, Obvious. And yeah, so if you have this next Wednesday, maybe I'll pop in again.
Yeah, no, I'll check in on yours. So you're doing yours Wednesday. You're starting to also do Wednesdays at like around 6 p.m. or something like that.
Yeah, but you know what? The Wednesday one is really supposed to be for my Patreons, even though they haven't taken advantage of it yet. So if you're available on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time, check that out. because that's the one where I have people jumping in and we just kind of like we talk about whatever. But Wednesday's supposed to be just for my Patreons.
Gotcha.
But they don't show up. All right, thanks guys. Y'all have a good night. Take care.
Right, thanks,
Yeah,
bro.
nice talking to you.
All right, bye-bye.
Later, man.
Thanks for having me on, Nachi. I always appreciate these talks, even if I like having a live stream where it just sort of meanders around.
Like my painting over here, Meandering Voyage. But no.
Did you paint that?
Yeah, no, these are, I'm sorry I had to fucking brag, but yes, these are my paintings. These are two of my oil paintings that I just figure it makes a more interesting background than what I had before. And yes, I'm trying to sell them. And if you don't mind, really quick here, let me see. I'll do a quick screen share. Sorry, I gotta make a living one way or another, dude. Here, let me get the. So for anybody who might be catching the tail end, this is the store where you could actually buy the T-shirts. You can get the Captain something. Or you can get let's see, this one comes up. But anyway, so you got that one, as well as the Meandering Voyage, which you can get a tote bag. So, but no, man, hey, thanks. Hey, dude, one thing that I would like to, without getting too into this right now, because I do gotta go. My mask, more than anything, it's my mask is fucking shaping my face right now. There's a window of time that I can wear this shit, and after that, it's like but when you were mentioning that and just because you mentioned it yourself about that you're on just psychotic meds or whatever, I would love to talk about that, man, because I would just love to talk about mental health issues, one of these days. And so
oh yeah, anytime. I have absolutely no problem discussing that. I will say I have stopped all antipsychotics and other medications, and the quality of my life has improved dramatically.
Wow. Well, let's schedule for one of those, man, because I would love to have that, man. I would love to have that talk and yeah, but let's just leave it at that, because we'll fucking be here for like another 3 hours.
Oh, definitely. All right, night, Nachi. Night, chat.
All right, brother. Hey, man. Thanks again for joining, dude.
Thanks. Good night.
Later. And that concludes the Nachi Free Wednesday night live stream for July 5th, 2017. Please check out my store if you want. I don't want to make a hard sell. It's teespring.com/stores/Nachi Free, which the link is down below. You can go check those out. And thanks again for watching. Till the next time. Good night.